I sort of, maybe it was while I was watching the West Point speech, I began to think he may just throw in the towel and
he
say,
didn't even shake hands with all the graduates, which the president, and Joe Biden did that. And you know what kind of shape he was in. He shook everybody's hand. Trump said, I can't do that today. I have to go stop the war in Ukraine. Well,
I'm not making a bet on this, but I do have a little sense that he might quit.
Well, okay. Sometimes your instincts are very keen.
Sometimes, not all the time, but check me on that.
All right.
Meanwhile, the people who quit are 4 members of the staff of Paul Weiss, the law firm, who decided that they were not going to hang around with Paul Weiss having capitulated to Trump. So I think we have a picture of a couple of them, although I may be calling for it out of order. I apologize to the control room. Karen Dunn and
Jeannie Reed.
Yeah, there they are. Those are 2 of the 4 that have quit. They're going to start their own law firm. And
joining them are Bill Isaacson and Jessica Phillips, and they're very prominent.
But Karen Dunn helped negotiate the capitulation.
Yep. Well, and Ms. Rhee served as the top prosecutor in Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. So this is the source of the problem. 2 other prominent lawyers at Paul Weiss, Jay Johnson, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and Stephen Banks, who was their head of their pro bono practice, are also departing.
And have you noticed that former Paul Weiss attorney Roberta Kaplan, who beat Trump, is now representing the Metropolitan Transit Authority here in fighting for congestion pricing to continue against Trump, and just won a ruling.
She's tough.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the biggest news that's going to affect everybody in this country is this horrible budget bill that the House passed by 1 vote. And it has so many bad things, we don't quite know where to start. It's all about redistributing wealth upward. The slashes to Medicaid and Medicare are going to be enormous for everybody.
Well, there's evidently a provision in the bill that, and this may be not even just in this bill, but historically, if the budget deficit reaches a certain point, Medicare is automatically cut.
How much? I mean,
I'm sure there's a formula. Well, I just heard it for the first time in the last week.
They just extended the debt limit by $4 trillion. Well,
I'm not sure.
So that Trump can hire more border guards and more military.
And another of my favorite provisions in this bill is that courts cannot enforce injunctions.
Right.
Whoa.
And how does that even belong in a budget bill? What they're saying is, we won't fund any effort to fight and
to enforce an injunction. Yeah.
Now the most grotesque from our perspective is that all gender affirming care is banned under Medicaid right now, and this is really cruelty. I mean, are the states going to make this up and start paying for the funding for trans care, gender affirming care for trans people? It's just, I'm just trying to go through all of it, because it cuts to student loans, it cuts loan forgiveness, it cuts Pell Grants. I mean,
well, this, if you were serious about cutting the deficit, you would take a huge chunk out of the Defense Department bill.
Oh, and they're increasing it.
They are. So this is nibbling around the edges of funding to destroy all these programs. And in the end, it's not going to cut enough to make a real difference in the budget deficit, which, as you say, has just been increased. So this is not about cutting the deficit. This is about injuring the American population.
People with disabilities, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay. The Army, U.S. Army, is going to alter the records of transgender soldiers to show only their sex at birth. They're just imposing this it's the guidance went out.
Well-
In keeping with good order and discipline, salutations addressing a senior officer as sir or ma'am only. I mean, it goes on and about this. They're just obsessed with this.
Well, one guy got thrown back in his face a little in Michigan, a Republican representative who introduced their state no trans women in girls' sports, was holding a hearing on some of this. And we have a little tape. He was asked at the hearing by a gay representative a very intriguing question.
Are you? I asked you the question.
Right, I'm asking the question back to you.
Right,
But I don't know that that's an
but
important-
what I-
We missed the top of
Representative,
that.
can you tell me, are you trans? Are you? I asked you the question.
Right, I'm asking the question back to you.
Right,
But I don't know that that's an
But what I
appropriate
want to know,
question.
yeah, but I'm actually going somewhere with this. I'm going somewhere with this because I want to know how does a 14-year-old girl prove whether or not she's trans to a 50-year-old coach?
Representative, I don't think that's an appropriate question to be asking here today. And I ask you to remain. Thank you.
Lost for
Move on
words.
to
Well, it's not an appropriate question to ask in a legislative hearing, but it's an appropriate question to ask the 14-year-old in sports.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, pull down your pants or skirt so we can examine you.
Right. By the way, since August of 2023, at least 31 gender and sexuality-based resource centers on college campuses across 23 college campuses have closed, according to recent research. 16 were LGBTQ centers. And the 31 closures thus far have occurred in states with majority Republican legislatures.
And here's another little local outrageous story. In Georgia, in North Cobb, which is in the Atlanta area. We've heard about Cobb County for years in Georgia. Well, the North Cobb Christian School has expelled senior Emily Wright 4 weeks before her graduation. Why? Because she brought a trans date to the prom. There are no rules against it. There's nothing written that says you can't bring a trans date to the prom. And why would that be horrible?
Well, they said to her, is there anything we should know about this guest that you brought to the prom? And I knew exactly, she said, what they were talking about. I said, yes, he's transgender. And her mother says she got a call from the principal. I've been informed that Emily brought a transgender to the prom. Are you aware of that? And the mother said, yes.
Is this school saying that trans people are not allowed on their grounds?
This was off property.
Right.
And
exactly.
and the family signed a form allowing her to bring a guest, said the mother. And the only limitation on the form was related to the guest's age. You can't bring any sugar daddies and things. You don't, So, Trisha said, I feared this might happen. I cried very hard, she said. But I mean, she's been barred from graduation.
Emily
right?
is the
Emily is, right.
Yeah.
Trisha's the mother.
Yeah. It's just, you know,
The school's principal's a graduate of Liberty University.
well, there you go. But we talk about these stories every week and about these in sort of grand terms or universal terms, but it's the on the ground individual impact of these horrible attitudes and laws and everything else. But this isn't even a law. This is just people being hateful at the Christian school.
Right.
Yeah.
And I keep quoting the Bible. In Christ, there is neither male nor female. You can look it up.
Thank you for that. But it's not just a Christian school in Georgia. It's Disney now. Bob Iger, the head of Disney, has said to the cast at The View that he wants them to talk less about politics.
Do more of those celebrity interviews. Yeah, bring Springsteen on. He'll.
Yeah. they don't like, they think that this is turning off the audience. But if you watch The View, the stuff that gets the biggest cheers and the most applause is the anti-Trump stuff.
Sure. And it's just the suits being nervous about the president going after them.
Well, he has certainly gone after Disney. So did Ron DeSantis, of course. But it's also interesting that Hacks, which is just winding up its season on Max tomorrow night as we tape.
How did you like this season?
It was a little grimmer than previous seasons.
That's what I heard.
But it warmed up, and I just can't resist it. It's wonderful. And if you haven't watched Hacks, start at the beginning with the first season. There are only a few episodes each season.
We're gonna go see The Star in
Gene Smart.
in
Wow.
a play.
Can't wait.
in
But
a couple of weeks.
Hacks is doing this whole thing about censorship and complaints about political humor, and that was taped ages ago, but it just happens to be airing now as this is coming to a head.
Okay. In Texas, come September, every public school has to display the 10 Commandments. This is a bill that they passed. They passed it on a Saturday, which is the Jewish Sabbath, and Sunday, the Christian Sabbath, when you're not supposed to do any work. So it's a violation of the fourth commandment. And, the sponsors of these bills say things like, it's incumbent on all of us to follow God's law. And I think we'd all be better off if we did.
What about those of us who don't
Right.
believe in God?
Right. So
Why do we have to?
Can just see the 7-year-olds going, what's adultery? I didn't know what it meant when I was 7.
I have something for you.
Oh boy, thank
Brand
you.
new one.
Oh, what if I just turn this on?
Well, let's get Ann
Just
mic'd
use the
up.
new one, the old one.
Okay,
We
I
got
just
you
dropped
another.
it on the floor.
I'll talk about another story.
Please.
In Seattle, 23 people were arrested after chaos and violence broke out during competing protests in Seattle Park. So there was this anti-trans group called Don't Mess With Our Kids. So there were 500 of them and 500 pro-LGBT and fisticuffs brought. But the mayor is defending our side and saying that they said that the anti-trans people sent, sort of agent provocateur into the other group to stir things up. And this is, of course, what I keep saying I'm worried about. We're going to have this big demonstration on June 14th. But at some point, the Trump people are going to try to disrupt it to get a fight going, and then they can declare martial law.
At the point of a gun.
Right.
Control room, can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
How are we
All
doing?
right, I think you said fine. Well, also in Seattle, there's a little brouhaha because a sperm bank there has admitted selling leftover sperm to the FBI.
For what?
Research.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, that's what everyone's asking. Why?
All right. Let's get to the. All
Oh,
right.
I want to throw in a few other.
Go ahead. I have some crime stories. And
Okay.
things.
Well, here's a crime story. Jussie Smollett
Oh yeah.
has finally settled with the city of Chicago after going back and forth about whether he actually faked his attack years ago. And he has agreed to donate $50,000 to Building Brighter Futures Center for the Arts, a youth group. Well, I'm glad someone is supporting youth arts because they're not going to get anything from Trump.
That's true.
And in New York City, Heritage of Pride, which puts on the
New York City Pride.
traditional Pride March. And
Well, I would say we put on the traditional Pride
that's
March
true.
with the
yeah.
Queer Liberation March.
Which
but-
is happening. But Heritage of Pride has revealed that it is $750,000 short of its budgeted amount for this year's Pride, about a quarter of the amount they were hoping to raise.
As I said, just throw out the budget, just ask people to show up and have a protest march.
Well, of course, join the Queer Liberation March, but
Let's all join together.
yeah.
Because we better do it fast or we're going down.
So as we predicted last week, as we had a little interior intelligence on, they want a peer-to-peer fundraising thing, which they are budgeting at raising $25,000. What's that going to do with your $750,000 shortfall?
Just have a march. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
No, just call people out into the street.
Get rid of those floats.
And the regiments. It's so much more fun when people just get out in the street.
That's what we're
and
going to
wander
do.
around.
And
we're
going to meet at the AIDS Memorial
at 11 a.m.
on the last Sunday of June.
Yes, and march north to Lenape Circle, otherwise known as Columbus Circle.
And where the Trump Hotel is.
And I'm going to marshal the drag march on Friday night this year. I've been trying to get back to that for years.
For you.
But
You really are back in the swing of things.
I am. Why
All right,
not?
Some crime stories.
Okay.
A tragedy. Black trans man Shy Parius Dupre was shot to death in Memphis on May 18th. We don't know a lot about the whole incident, but this guy attended Sheffield High School, was also an Escoffier School of Culinary Arts person. He was 32 years old. Worked
for FedEx, worked as a youth counselor, worked as a bartender and a cook.
The family and friends held a candlelight vigil on Saturday, May 24th. That's at 6 o'clock in Martin Luther King, Riverside Park.
If we get more details, we'll let you know.
And then in Manhattan, we told you about these guys who were going around drugging gay men in gay bars drugging their drinks, and in some cases killing them with the drugs. Julio Ramirez, there on the left, 25, a social worker, and John Umberger, a right-wing political consultant, in September of 2022. So the three suspects in the case, there's their pictures. They were all given long sentences for murder, robbery, and conspiracy. They protest their innocence, but the DA, Alvin Bragg, says we want to stop this type of deadly conduct from occurring at all. And it's also used against non-gay people in bars.
Yes.
So watch out. Watch your drink. Seriously. Don't ever take a drink from somebody else that you haven't had complete control over. Don't leave it somewhere. Go to the restroom and come back. It may contain a drug. Actually, there are substances you can use to check for whether.
Yes. Maybe strips or something.
Yeah.
You may have wondered. I'm sure you've been up nights wondering about Joe Exotic, the Tiger King.
No, I'm not. But go ahead.
Well, he's still in jail in Texas. On suspicion of conspiring to murder that woman who was after him. But he got married for the 98th time to a fellow inmate, sixth husband actually, who has been released and didn't want to be deported. And so immediately went to Mexico, which is his home country. And now Joe is saying, please let me out of jail so I can go to Mexico and be with him. And it's this whole crazy thing.
Oh, you don't want to get shipped off to El Salvador. That's for sure.
Not at all.
Okay. PBS is engaging in self-censorship. And again, this doesn't appease the fascists. American Masters has a documentary about Art Spiegelman, the cartoonist. It's called Disaster is My Muse. Yeah. And, they cut this anti-Trump thing, that brief cartoon he had about, how awful Trump was. And they cut it from the thing, even though it had been approved before.
Another of my favorite stories. In Utah, they passed was it a good or a bad thing?
I don't know. I don't have the story. That's why I watched the show.
It was... Yeah, but I've now lost it in my notes after just seeing it.
Well, you find it. I'll let you know that I'm going to go to Queen's Pride this weekend on June 1st out there in Jackson Heights on 37th Avenue at noon. And they have made Andre Jose Hernandez Romero an honorary Grand Marshal. This is the guy who's locked up in the Gulag, who we have not heard from in El Salvador.
When is that?
It's on Sunday, June 1st. At noon in Jackson Heights.
Greenwich, Connecticut is having a Pride event on June 1st. Asbury Park, New Jersey is having Pride this Sunday, June 1st.
And a bunch of celebrities are throwing a fundraiser for Andre's effort, including John Lovett, This is going to be in Washington. We're linked to it. It's on June 6th. It's all part of the World Pride stuff.
And Shepherdstown, West Virginia, is having its first Pride Parade. Now, you may think that's, West Virginia, pretty astonishing. They're on their third gay mayor.
Some of these small towns that, it doesn't become so much of an issue. That's just, oh, that's Joe. We all know Joe. So it's no problem.
Well,
all right. Some of the
yes.
people we lost.
Oh, I found the story I was looking
Okay,
for.
go ahead.
In Utah, they were debating what to do about trans youth care and sports and everything else. And so the Republicans in the legislature said, we want a study of this. We don't believe that it's okay to do any of that. We want a legitimate study. So they commissioned the University of Utah to do a study. Well, the University of Utah said, yes, you should be doing trans care. And yes, you should be allowing trans athletes. And
then what did they say?
They buried it. They buried the study.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
All right. Some people we lost. We lost lesbian journalist Victoria Brownworth. She wrote for the Philadelphia Gay News from the age of 17.
She was a star.
She died at 69. She was predeceased by her wife, Maddie Gold. She'd been having a lot of health problems. And I think when
years,
when Maddie went, that made it a lot harder.
She had many cancers. She had MS. She wrote a lot for the Philadelphia Gay News, but she also wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer and a lot of other.
First person in the United States to write a column about lesbianism in a daily newspaper.
She did radio too. She
got
a lot of awards
for lesbian mystery. She became a host on Amazon Country.
She was amazing, Victoria Brownworth, and that's a big loss. And she suffered a lot for years with her various illnesses.
Right. Okay, and then Michelle Kammerer lived the struggle of working while transgender, had been a fire captain as a man and became a fire captain as a woman in the Los Angeles Fire Service, and she faced a lot of backlash, but she was also a lesbian as a trans woman. And she said that actually kind of made it easier with the guys because they didn't think I was going after them. But it was, they did a profile of her on In the Life in 1999 that we will link to in our email.
She leaves a wife and 3 kids and grandkids. She was quite a trailblazer.
Right.
And then in Palm Springs, California, Colton Ford, who was only 63, real name Glenn Sukisian, a big porn star, but also an accomplished and
recording artist.
Yes, and songwriter. Was on the Cyndi Lauper True Colors tour.
But apparently it was a hiking accident.
Yes, but the city flags of Palm Springs are flying at half staff.
A much beloved figure out there.
Yeah.
All right. International news?
Yeah. Oh, Florida, which has so much time on its hands, has passed a rule that bridges in Florida can only use red, white, and blue lights. No more rainbow lights on bridges.
We'll find a way around that.
Okay. Promise?
All right.
Yes.
International news.
Yeah.
We told you that Hungary has banned LGBTQ pride. So 20 EU states have condemned that and are starting a process to really go after Hungary on this.
In the UK, where they had the recent court decision that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Covered by the Equality Act.
Yeah, there are. So a trans-inclusive football club, the Goal Diggers, have scheduled a protest tournament that is taking place this weekend on June 1st.
Well, they're a trans-inclusive team, and they always have been. And the tournament is entitled "Let the Dolls Play." And it's also a non-ability-based team that welcomes trans. So
sounds like the gay games.
And their goal is to get the Goal Diggers is to get everyone gets at least 60 minutes of football. And the day will finish with a twist. The final will be played between the 2 teams with the fewest wins. How about that?
Okay. And we're running out of time.
In
Birmingham in the UK, our pal Peter Tatchell was carrying a sign in the Pride Parade demanding police apologize for anti-LGBT witch hunts.
Police didn't like this.
Well, he's gotten many police departments in the UK to apologize, but in Birmingham, they arrested him. They grabbed him and took him out of the parade. And then they told him that the leader of the parade had asked that he be removed. And the leader said, no, not me. The cops had lied to Peter.
It was just the cops. It's terrible. I mean, they used to arrest you there for just kissing in the street.
In Russia, Apple has been fined $93,500 for 3 violations of the no LGBTQ propaganda law. But all this took place in a closed hearing, and they wouldn't release a transcript of the hearing. And the judge said something to describe what had happened, but he spoke unintelligibly, so no one could know.
And Freddie Mercury had a child. It's 48 years later. We learn it's a girl, and she's giving interviews for this new book about him.
Yes. All right. AIDS news.
Well, Housing Works tag, Health Gap, they disrupted Rubio's testimony at the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and they were arrested.
Yep.
Rubio claims that PEPFAR is 85% functional. That's a lie, and they're demanding full reinstatement of that.
Yes. And let's...
England is starting a vaccination program for gonorrhea, the first such program in the world. It's for people who are like 16 to 23. Involves 2 shots 6 months apart.
And the annual AmFAR benefit at the Cannes Film Festival brought out Jeff Bezos, Coleman Domingo, Kimberly Guilfoyle, and Kevin Spacey, and Spike Lee and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey
It's quite a crowd.
Is directing a new film, apparently.
It made $17 million.
And
other entertainment news in our last 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
I watched the Gerard Carmichael new special on HBO, Don't Be Gay. It's really engaging and good. I liked it.
And let's show Cola Scola getting their caricature at Sardi's.
Bestowed on people who have contributed a lifetime, a long career to Broadway. And I've only done, 1 Broadway show. And to those people, I would say, who the fuck asked you? Who the fuck asked you? Mia Farrow gave me her phone number 2 days ago. And she said, if anyone gives me any trouble, she'll beat them up. So just think about that. You're comment your little things, and I'm talking to all of you. All right? So thank you so much.
I hope Cole wins the Tony, just to hear them speak.
Yes. Pee-wee as himself on HBO. 2 parts, 3.5 hours.
I watched it as well.
Yeah.
And ABC is going to do a Late to the Party coming out later in life special on Friday, June 6th at 8:00 Eastern. And it's going to stream on Hulu. It's hosted by Charles Blow.
Sirens on Netflix is kind of amusing. The end of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu was excellent, but there's a sequel coming, The Testaments, from another book by Margaret Atwood. And as I say, Hacks wrapped up this week.
And at Cannes, the newcomer Nadia Maliti won Best Actress honors for something called Little Sister. She plays a tough Paris teenager trying to navigate her sexuality in a conservative immigrant community.
Muslim. And it's her first role as an actress. The American Music Awards courted a little controversy because J-Lo did a big opening dance number where she kissed some of her dancers, both male and female.
And the Huntington Museum out there in California has an exhibit on Don Bacardi, A Life in Portraits.
Ah, yes. All right. Oh, we still have 19 seconds. Good for us.
Take it away, Anne.
Well, I'm going to come back glowing next week, but everything's good. And we will see you then.
If we're
God willing,
still
and the
allowed,
creek don't rise.
if we're still allowed to do this.
Okay, bye.
Bye.